He's an extremely well-qualified person. He's a veteran law enforcement officer with over 24 years' experience. He oversees the highway patrol operations in 6 Northeast Texas counties. He's vice president of the Texas Department of Public Safety Officers Association and has served several tours of duty in Operation Strong Safety, which is down on the border, and that's the DPS border security program, which hopefully Dan Patrick and we're going to continue it and hire more people for it if Joe Strauss gets out of the way. He's a standardized field sobriety testing instructor and certified drug recognition expert. He's an adjunct instructor at Sam Houston State University, also at East Texas Police Academy, and he does a lot of other things, teaches classes and certified instructor in many things. He's an extremely well-qualified person, and so I'd like you to welcome Jimmy Jackson.
Thanks, Ashley. That's a whole lot of work, you know, and a whole lot of talking. And I told Joanne when she asked us to come do this, the first thing I want to do is thank you all for asking us. It's always good to come talk to a group, and specifically this group I want to thank for y'all's support of our agency, what we're doing at the border, the things we're trying to fulfill, some missions the governor and lieutenant governor have, the leadership at the legislature has tasked us with doing. And the other hat I wear that Ashton did mention is I chair a legislative committee for our state police association, a statewide association. And I'm spending 2 to 3 days a week at the Capitol during the session working on some of our legislative agenda items. And I send that thanks to this group and Joanne, who has turned out to be a dear friend of mine. And I don't know if any of you have been to the Capitol. I know all of you are associated with Joanne, but if you need to get a legislator's attention, go in there and let them know Joanne's your friend, and you'll make some headway getting into some offices. It really does help. So her support and y'all's support of what we're doing is important, and I appreciate that. Ashton asked us to talk about guns today, and I've already had a couple of questions about open carry, so if there's stuff about guns or other stuff that we need to talk about, don't be shy about asking questions. But when Ashton talked about concealed handguns, what kind of concealed handguns do we carry? What do we carry at home? What do we want to do with them? What kind of gun? I'm not going to come up here and recommend a Smith & Wesson or a Beretta or a 6 Hour. We're not recommending specific type guns, but we're going to talk about what you do with guns and what's best for you. And you got to decide what your goal of owning a firearm is going to be. What are you going to do with that firearm? Are you just strictly getting it just to defend yourself while you're walking through your neighborhoods, walking your dog or exercising? Are you just going to put it in your dresser drawer or behind a door in your house to protect you and your property with it? Are you actually going to go to the gun range and use it? Are you going to go out and shoot it? Are you a shooter? Do you hunt? Do you compete in sports? So the first thing before you purchase a gun, I think we need to define a goal and let's decide what we're going to do with it. We've probably got hunters in the room, and obviously your hunting gun may or may not be what you want to defend. If you're a duck hunter, my son and I do a lot of waterfowl hunting. If all you're wanting to do is protect yourself behind your recliner, I could probably put my duck hunting shotgun right there beside me and be just fine. Don't have to buy another one. But it's probably not for taking your wife to the dinner or to the movie on Friday night. That may not be the weapon you want. So decide what you want to do with that gun, what events you're going to be involved in, and then prioritize that list. Maybe it's a different gun for a different event or what you want to do, how you're going to do that. Some of the considerations in purchasing a gun, we'll talk about capacity, what guns carry the most bullets. This may be elementary stuff to you, but it's important in deciding what you want to do. You know, in law enforcement, I'm probably carrying about 55 or 60 rounds of ammunition on me at this time. And the average law enforcement shooting around the nation, they say, involves 4.2 shots. So less than 5 shots are, you know, well, I guess I'm equipped to get in 8 or 10 gun battles when I leave. I don't know. So the capacity is important, how many things you're going to carry. Obviously, a revolver is not going to carry what a semi-automatic does, but there are some functions both ways. The safety features, understanding how the gun operates, are things to take into consideration, what you want to look at. What does the gun have? It's important how much time you have to react to an incident. We'll talk about those things. Some other considerations, how simple is the weapon to use? Some are more complicated than others. Some of them, even semi-automatics, are truly as simple as picking it up and pulling the trigger like a revolver. Some of them have decock levers, ambidextrous safeties, left-handed, right-handed issues. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration too. And obviously, if we're going to be in a confrontation, accuracy is important. I can show you some law enforcement videos where we've had troopers involved, and I know we've got Steve Black over here, did it for years with the Rangers, but there's law enforcement shootings. I've seen troopers get involved in close quarter confrontations and not hit anything. I've seen troopers in the woods from 60 yards away with a rifle take out a shooter at a house. So you just, emotions are going and training, and that's something that we as citizens need to take into consideration if we're going to use guns. The accuracy of that gun we're buying, and that can vary from weapon to weapon. When we're talking about handguns, you see a lot of people walk into a gun shop. I like this particular weapon because I saw it on the news, or my uncle had one, or that's what that highway patrolman I saw last week had one. I want one like his. How those guns fit your hand are very important. We're in the process of got a study at our firearms range right now about changing the pistol we're carrying, not because of the caliber, not because of the function of the weapon, but a different weapon that comes with 3 hand grips, a medium, small, and a large, that the troopers can change out individually themselves depending on what's most comfortable for them. So how that gun fits your hand and how we're able to hold it should be something. So don't go buy a handgun just based on the caliber and the make and the model because you heard it's a good thing. Use that gun, hold it, get measured, make sure it fits. That's going to have some play. What we do also, and I know most of you are familiar with handguns, and this is basic, and Ashton talked about being basic, but we're always going to treat our guns like they're loaded. We're not going to point it at nothing we're not willing to shoot, and keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. And when we talk about training, did anybody see the recent video of the bank robbers? The bank robbery suspects, I believe it was out of California, was on CNN last night. They think those robbers may have some ties to law enforcement or military, which is a scary thought. But one of the reasons they think that is the crooks are walking around with masks on in the bank, and they've got their finger down the side of the gun and not in the trigger guard. The way they're carrying their weapons have a law enforcement and military feel to it. But that's all about training, and we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation here briefly, about what we need to do and what we want to do. Y'all are probably familiar with both types of handguns, the semi-automatic and the revolver. The semi-automatic has some advantages. Obviously, it carries more bullets. It can be a little more lightweight. It has more of a compact design. We'll talk about revolvers in just a second, but what I want to tell the group is what gun is best for you is the gun you'll train with and use. If you're only going to buy that gun to put it in your purse or to put it in the glove box of your pickup truck, frankly, I recommend you buy a revolver because it's going to work every time you pull the trigger. If you're going to buy a semi-automatic handgun, you need to train with it. You need to get a membership at Lock and Load. You need to go out to your farm, wherever you've got access to shoot, wherever it is, and you need to spend time with that weapon. Because if you're involved in a confrontation, you don't have time to raise your hand and say, wait a minute, I got to look and remember where my safety is. I got to remember how to operate it. There's no timeouts. So that's really the difference and probably the core of what I would tell the group in recommendations of gun depicts is use something you don't have to think about how to use when you need to use it. I would use something that kind of came second nature to you and it was guaranteed to work. Well, We may. You can just click it if you. There you go. Some of the disadvantages to the semi-automatic pit are just what we just talked about. They're a little less reliable. They're harder to handle for a novice shooter, and they're less accurate. You got a lot going on. That revolver has a tendency to be more accurate for a novice shooter because the guns, you don't have the slide action. It's not chambering new bullets. Doesn't have all the movement. It's easy. It's a little harder to hold on to. All those things come into play with that. When you talk about revolvers, much more relaxed requirements for storage, care. They're simpler to learn, easier to operate, and they're just safer for a novice shooter. They're also easy for a kid to pull the trigger on, too. Do you have grandkids walking around in the house? Kids walking around in the house? Those are things to take into consideration. My mom, 70 years old. My dad's a retired law enforcement officer. My mom came in and said, I want to go get a concealed handgun license. She done gun on there. She knew what kind of Glock pistol she wanted. And I said, Mom, what are you trying to accomplish with this? Well, everything's going on. We're going to the mall. We're going to the movies, taking the kids. We're traveling. I want a gun in the car. I said, well, where do you go? Dad's not with you. Well, sometimes I do, and I want a gun. I said, okay. We'll go out on Sunday afternoon, and we'll try that. Well, after shooting it, I said, Mom, you just asked me to open a jar of hot sauce because you didn't have enough strength to open a jar of hot sauce, and now you want to carry a pistol around. Well, after shooting them and using them one afternoon, she said, well, I'll just stay close to you or Dad from here on out. I'll probably be all right. And there's some truth to that. So we have ideas. I feel that a little bit about open carry. We had some questions. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I kind of feel that way about these pistols, you know. Sometimes we want to carry them because it's our right and we got a concealed handgun process and we're going to do it. But there is a potential there to cause more harm to you than safety to you if somebody takes it away from you. So using them, being familiar with them, and finding out what's best for you is really important. And it may be one of the things Ashton and I talked about on the phone was about a shotgun. Is a shotgun the best thing for home defense? Well, again, that really depends on you and your home. If it's just you and your spouse living at home and both of you know where the gun's kept and it's behind the door or behind the fireplace or under the bed and we know how to get it and we know how to use it, that shotgun may be very effective. Anybody see the 911 call with Sandra Bullock hiding in a closet? She would have probably rather had a handgun than a shotgun hiding in the closet. But if you were going to be in a confrontation with somebody kicking in the front door, you know, you can just kind of shoot in a general area with that shotgun. Some buckshot does wonders. So a whole lot of it is situational and what's comfortable for you. Personally, I'm perfectly content with the pistol I carry sitting on my bedstand at night. I feel comfortable taking that gun and functioning it and operating it and protecting my family with it. That may not work for you. It might work for you. So whichever way you decide, I encourage you to use guns, find one. You can go out to Lock and Load and they'll let you shoot various pistols. They've got some they'll let you test. So if you don't have one, I recommend you do that. As a general rule, if you're a novice shooter, get a revolver. My PIO, if y'all, you know, we don't spend a lot of time on the news media. We let Jean Dark do that. She's prettier. She does a better job of it anyway in front of the TV. But Jean put this presentation together for me. I was reading through it when I got there, and she said, if you're a novice shooter, get a revolver. If you plan to hunt with it, get a very big revolver. I said, Jean, where'd you come up with that? She got it out somewhere from DPS, I'm sure. If you're a woman and plan to carry a gun and want a gun for your purse, revolver's not a bad choice for that.
Jimmy, you know? Could you raise your mic up a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. If you're a woman and plan to carry a gun in your purse, the revolver's not a bad choice for that. The revolver can get lint, dirt, makeup, all that stuff on it and still operate, and all those things can affect a semi-automatic. So if you're carrying it in your purse or something like that, the revolver's not a bad choice. Home protection, you know, one of the brochures said, for goodness sakes, get a shotgun. but it needs to be one you're familiar with and you're comfortable with and comfortable shooting. That's the short presentation we put together about guns to talk about that, and I wanted to open up the last 5 or 10 minutes to answer questions, and I'll close by just reiterating whatever gun you're going to use, do that. Use it. It's really important to be familiar with the weapon you're using so that if you need it, you're not trying to figure out how to operate it.
I think this says if I drive my car all over the United States, where does my Texas concealed carry license make me legal?
Well, the short answer to that is it makes you legal in all of the states we have reciprocity with. And I have a list of them, but I don't have it memorized and didn't bring it with me. You can go online on our concealed handgun website. There are different places you can go to find that, but we have reciprocity with certain states that will honor those concealed handguns, and there's a list of them. As a general rule, don't go to Alabama and get arrested and say, well, there's a highway patrolman in Tyler that said it was okay. But as a general rule, if you're traveling and you're a legitimate traveler, there's not a lot of issues between the states, especially if you have the concealed handgun law.
Where can a CHL permit holder carry a concealed handgun or not carry it? Example, schools, university, government offices, city, state, federal, churches, and traveling.
Again, I didn't bring a copy of the law with me, but as a general rule, we can't carry them in schools. We're not carrying them in hospitals, those gun-free zones, around schools, at school events. And then businesses have the ability, you've seen some of the signs, they'll post a sign, no concealed handguns. So those places are there. And again, there's a list of them. Ashton, if you told me to bring the penal code with me, I would have.
For information and a question at the end.
Yes.
There is the Lone Star Gun Show at Harvey Hall, April 18th and 19th. Saturday 9 a.m. to 5, Sunday 10 to 4, $7. Sounds like a commercial. Vendors and group is nice and friendly. Question: is this a good place for a new person to browse and learn about guns?
It's certainly a good place to browse, and there's a lot of information at a gun show. But most gun shows are not going to have a booth set up where you could go, let me take that pistol and go try it out. Gun shows are no doubt great opportunities for gun enthusiasts to buy, sell, trade, get new information and look at things, but I wouldn't go to the gun show as a novice shooter walking in and saying, hey, what gun should I buy? You're going to get overwhelmed with information. I would recommend you do some of that research yourself, have an idea of what you want to shoot and have an idea of what you want to buy when you arrive at the gun show would be my recommendation.
I think I'm going to show my ignorance of guns here.
Okay.
What is more deadly, a .22 Magnum or, I think this says a .380?
22s are very deadly. 380s are very deadly, and I don't want to minimize the question, and I'm not going to pick one caliber over the other. The example I'll give you is I've got a little 22 that fits into a billfold that if I'm going to the golf course or doing something, I'll just throw in my pocket. And I'm completely convinced in a hand-to-hand confrontation, you could kill somebody with it and it'd be very deadly. But that's not the gun of choice. Even the .380 is not the gun of choice. If I'm going to be in a gun battle, I spent some time in church with our sheriff, and we were talking about things that happened at Green Acres Baptist Church, and I said, Larry, what caliber gun are you carrying? He said, I'm carrying a 9mm. And I said, I got a .380, and I'm afraid if we got in a gun battle in Green Acres Church, I'd just have to run hide. I'd have to throw it at him. It's a big church. So when you're talking about calibers, 22 versus .380, those are close quarter guns. Those are not guns you're going to want to be in a confrontation with across this room. But in hand-to-hand combat, in a close quarters and in a purse snatching and a carjacking in an assault type situation. Both of those guns are very capable of doing a lot of damage to somebody that's trying to hurt you. So for personal protection, either one of them is good. Now, which one is deadlier than the other? You know, you could kill somebody with either one of them very easily. So,
Are revolvers and pistols the same?
no, and that's what we were just talking about in the presentation. When you talk about revolvers and pistols, I guess some of that is all in the name. When we refer to a pistol, you could be a semi-automatic or a revolver, either one. So I guess a pistol could refer to either one. So when you talk about pistols, I say you have revolvers and semi-automatics that are both pistols and they're both handguns. So
For home defense, would a revolver with a SWAT load be better than a larger shotgun?
I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but whoever asked that question, tell me what they think a SWAT load is.
If you raise your hand, I'll bring the mic to you.
Okay.
I'm talking about those police SWAT loads that have the fragments, the little BBs fragments.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Shot.
I'm with, there's a couple of things out there like that, Mike. There's some of them, Hornady's come out with a bullet they call the Zombie. And it's got different colors. You'll see red and green in there. It's got a material inside the hollow point, and it's designed to do a lot of damage in the body and not exit the body. It's for close quarter shooting. A lot of people are carrying those, and those bullets for home protection certainly do more damage. Those are the kind of bullets. You know, anytime you've got, but years ago, they came out with a bullet called the Black Talon. And you still see the Black Talon bullets around in some places. And those bullets make a star shape, and they twist through the body and do a lot of damage when they go through there. So in a home defense situation, that kind of ammunition is certainly something to look into. Now, you talk about your cheap target load. You're going to poke holes in people just like you poke holes in paper. And, you know, if I stood you up and said, what part of your body do you want me to poke a hole in there you won't get hurt? Well, you know, that's a tough question to answer, too. So anytime you poke a hole in somebody, that's a bad deal. But those home defense bullets that you refer to as a SWAT bullet, there's all kinds of tactical ammunition like that for home defense it's a little more pricey, but honestly, you're not going to use it that much anyway. So that's certainly not a bad deal.
What is the law on carrying a gun in a car and not having a concealed license? And what is the law on guns in a home?
Well, you can have whatever you want in your home. You don't have to have a concealed handgun license, shotgun, revolver, put it whatever you want in your home. When you're talking about traveling, we do have a traveling exception in Texas. You can carry a gun in your car when you're traveling. Now, that doesn't mean drive from here to Dallas and get out at the Walmart, put your gun in your pocket and go in Walmart and get involved in an incident and say, wait a minute, I'm traveling. The purpose of carrying your gun when you're traveling is from point A to point B. If you break down, you're stranded on the highway. When I was telling the little story about my mom, she will slip over to playing a blackjack tournament or a slot machine tournament. That's what she wanted her little gun for. And I said, Mom, you don't have to put the gun in your car. You don't have to have the license for that anyway. So you can drive back and forth to those places and do that. So if you're traveling, you can carry that gun. I encourage people to get the concealed handgun. Not because I'm trying to generate money for the state. I think it gives the novice shooter a little more education. It requires them to use that gun a little bit in training. And I think it's a good thing, and it covers all of the legal bases for you. So the short answer to that is yes, you can carry a pistol in your car when you're traveling, if you just want to put it in there to do it. But I encourage everybody to go ahead and do the concealed handgun class. It's just one Saturday out of your life. And get that done, because it gives you that license to carry it if you need to or want to, and it gives you a little more training and makes you a little more knowledgeable with it.
What do you say to the person who likes to carry a revolver which has no safety? It's
one of my weapons of choice. A little lightweight 38 is easy to conceal. Again, it goes back to what do you want to do with it. I've got a little, some of y'all may have them, y'all seen the little gun safes that you can put things in. I got a little gun safe there at the house. I've got a little niece and a little nephew when they come over. And I'm always paranoid about that particular gun, making sure it's in the safe because I'm worried about one of them kids getting their hands on it. Quite frankly, they may not, with a semi-automatic, you got the safety. It's no doubt a safer weapon, but that doesn't make the revolver dangerous, in my opinion. It's all about what you do with it. I don't think it's not as safe. It's really more reliable. One of the things we talked, if you remember, when we were talking about semi-automatics in the presentation, if you don't practice with that semi-automatic and you don't use that semi-automatic, I promise you the first time you're in a high-stress situation with it, you're going to be fumbling trying to figure out how to get it off safety to have to use it. So if all you're going to do is put it in your purse or put it under your seat of your pickup truck, if you can keep that gun away from children and keep it safe, that's going to be more helpful to you in that stressful situation anyway if you're not using it all the time.
What are the legislative issues concerning gun rights being considered before the state legislature, and what is your opinion about them?
Well, that's a big question. And really, I start talking about personal opinions, I need to run out there and change clothes and come back in regular clothes. When I'm dressed in this uniform, I don't have a whole lot of opinion. But I will tell you this, the two bills I've seen at the legislature, being down there myself right now, are obviously the open carry bills. Several of you have talked to me about them during lunch. And we've got constitutional carry, and then we've got the current open carry bill. And I'm not trying to debate whether I believe 100%, like I'm sure all of you in this room do, we all have a constitutional right to carry a gun. I believe that 100%, without a doubt. I have some concerns about both of the open carry bills. My concerns about the open carry bills, as a highway patrol lieutenant, I supervise 70 highway patrolmen in 6 counties around East Texas. We regularly do weapons retention training with our troopers, teaching our troopers who are proficient with this sidearm, they're proficient with their gun, teaching them how to retain that weapon in a confrontation. I'm not jumping up down. I'm not telling you I'm for or against open carry. One of my concerns is if all of us put a gun on our hip and carry it out in the open, I think advertising where we carry those guns makes it easier for criminals to take. I've got criminals that can take them away from uniformed highway patrolmen that are trained with them. I promise they can take them away from you in a movie theater when you're not expecting it. So I have concerns about the safety of my mom and dad, my kids, you, myself, out in public when a criminal starts taking guns away from our open carry people. I like the idea. I have the ability to carry open right now as a police officer. As a state trooper, I carry my pistol anywhere I want to, in the schools, and that's a whole nother story. I actually got stopped going into an elementary school and told I couldn't carry a pistol in there because they saw it on my ankle. But even though I have the ability to carry open now, I don't, because I don't want anybody to know. I think there is some merit to the element of surprise. So it's not that I'm opposed to our constitutional right to carry guns. I believe in that 100%. I just have some concerns. I don't want to look through a 1950s scenario with 2015 glasses or vice versa. So I think we really have to pay attention to the day and age we're in and what our criminals are doing, and be careful how we do that.
Does a shotgun buckshot load penetrate walls in your home as well as a handgun or rifle bullet?
Probably not. No doubt you could shoot some buckshot at a close range through any of these walls, I'm sure. But from further distances, the further back you get, it will be less penetration. Now, when you talk about a handgun or a rifle, you've got much more velocity. I mean, with this handgun, we could probably penetrate all of these walls. Pretty easy. So honestly, probably depend on the distance the shooter is from that particular wall. With a high-powered rifle, if you're talking about deer rifles and some of the high-powered rifles, probably stand anywhere in your house and penetrate several walls with some of the bigger rifles. But you hear about that. That's the theory behind when Mike asked about the tactical ammunition. These zombie rounds and some of these tactical rounds that are being designed not to leave the body. That's part of what some of that is for shooting in public or shooting in structures. We don't have a lot of bullets going from one wall to the other.
I have a concealed license from Virginia. Am I still okay in Texas?
If we have reciprocity with them, and I don't have that list, but I think so.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
If you forget or accidentally carry a concealed handgun into a gun-free zone and you are a CHL permit holder, what is the penalty?
Well, the penalty doesn't change. What we hope is the law enforcement officer that's involved in that encounter applies a little common sense to the situation. Is your gun-free zone a hospital, or is it an elementary school? Or are you waving it around above your head, firing shots up in the air? There's a lot of situation goes with that, but the penalties don't change. The gun-free zone means a gun-free zone. Don't carry it in there. That's why they've got the signs posted. So the fact you're a CHL carrier doesn't change the law. But as law enforcement officers, we have to use common sense day to day in how we enforce the laws the legislature puts on the books. And I know that can open up a can of worms, but hopefully in that situation, if it was a simple mistake, you walked in, oh, I didn't realize it, I forgot about it, hopefully that's something we could apply some common sense to and not overreact to.
If you are carrying without a license, what do you do when you are stopped?
You travel.
There's no, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. It's okay just to tell the trooper I'm traveling, but I've got a gun in the trunk, or I've got a gun in the glove box. I would base that information on whether that law enforcement officer is going to have the ability to see the gun. If you're traveling and the gun's under your front seat, then I would just let that trooper know, hey, hands are up here on the steering wheel, I'm traveling to Dallas, but just so you know, I've got a pistol under the front seat in case you see it. Just wanted you to know it was there. And be upfront about it. If the gun's in the trunk because you're broken down, you're putting it in there just in case you break down on the interstate, you want to have access to it, so it's in your trunk, there's probably not any reason to bring it up. Now, if during this he asks you for your insurance and you say, oh, I've got that in a bag in the trunk, and you get out of the car to open the trunk, you might tell him before you open it, hey, there's a pistol in here, I just wanted you to know. So just like apply that thought process to where the gun is he going to see it? There's nothing wrong with you having it. There's nothing to hide. But it's also doesn't have to be a discussion item if he's not going to see it anyway.
Would it be a good idea to have a sign on your house saying gun on premises?
There's nothing wrong with it. There's some merit to, I would have never believed this, but I was with the sheriff's office when they had some burglars in custody. I actually had to listen to a burglary suspect at one point tell us they picked some of the houses that didn't have dogs. And, so there's some people that put up the signs that say, beware a dog, when they really don't even have a dog. So I guess anything could be a deterrent. You've got a lot of the home burglaries where, frankly, our burglars are going out, they're doing some surveillance, they're seeing when you're home, when you're not, and they're coming to your house hoping you're not there, hoping nobody's there, and those signs may or may not deter anybody. But they may do. Like I said, that one burglar didn't like the beware a dog sign, so anything could help.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'd like your opinion on gun-free zones and how much that's contributing to the criminal knowing that he can go in there and nobody's going to have a gun. And if you think at some point all of that scenario would change.
I don't know if the scenario would change. And when you talk about those gun-free zones, what I'll put back on is when you say, do you think that's giving the criminals an opportunity? How many gunfights have you had in schools, hospitals? How much of that have we seen in the news? You don't see a lot of it. Is that because it's a gun-free zone? I don't know. I'm not sure. I think so either. Any of you heard of Dave Grossman, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman? If you have time, write that name down. If you're going to spend some time on the internet, it sounds like a bad website when I tell you this, but it's not. But he's got a website called Killology.com. He's a retired lieutenant colonel out of the military. He's a wonderful speaker. He's an expert in school shootings, those kind of things that deal with some of the gun-free zones. In going to a couple of his seminars, the people that were involved in shootings in those schools, I think whether that was a gun-free zone was completely irrelevant to those people. I don't think it mattered a bit. So it's kind of hypothetical, Patty. I mean, we don't have a lot of shootings at the hospital or at the schools around here. Are the gun-free zones helping that? Well, we'd have to ask the criminals, but it's not affecting what we do as citizens a whole lot, I think.
Isn't it mental illness?
Sir?
Isn't it mostly mental illness?
A lot of it is, and I guess it's all in your definition of mental illness, but he's got some, Dave Grossman's got, one of the books I read was, he's got a book out called Stop Teaching Our Kids to Kill. And it was a pretty interesting book about, the mentality we're programming our kids with just through some of the televisions and video games and some of the things we do, and how you, not necessarily completely mentally ill, but just the environment some of our kids are growing up in creates a psychology that some of that's okay. And it was some interesting reading. I've got two boys, 17 and 14, and they think their dad's lost their mind. One of the things I read in there is what part of, they talked to some neurologists, and in that book, he's got in the book where what parts of the brain are used to play video games, what parts of the brain are used for cognitive thinking, taking tests at school, and then it can take up to 8 hours and sometimes longer for the brain to reprogram to where it's functioning all cognitively correct. So on days we have school tests, STAR tests, we've now got rules about no video games, put your cell phones up. And I'm the bad dad at home because but it's pretty interesting reading about, but he goes into the mental illness and no doubt you can't, in my opinion, walk in a movie theater dressed as Batman and shoot 500 people and then come out there and say he's not mentally ill. To me, that's mentally ill. But at the same time, I don't want to declare him mentally ill because I want to hold him accountable for his actions and what he did in the movie theater. So there's a fine line, which side of that line are you going to step on? So, but yes, there's got to be some mental problems when somebody's doing something like that. No doubt.
Any other questions? Can we say thank you to Lieutenant Jackson?